Good morning and welcome to Hump Day, February 12th edition. I am Marsh, joined as always by Rick Blaze. Good morning, Rick. How are you?
I'm getting my hump on. I'm doing just fine.
Another PG-13 intro from the show. We got plenty to get to. We got an upset in college basketball. We had the game of the week last week, and we're going to talk a little SWBA, but let's start with the stunner, and that was Duke getting dropped at home, just the fourth time in Florida State history that the program has taken down a number one seed. They do that against Duke. A stunning victory for Florida State, 87-80. Cooper Flagg, a rather pedestrian night from him. Just the second loss on Duke's season. Rick, your immediate takeaways from last night?
Right now, they're in Florida building a statue for Garrett Hart. The freshman has been phenomenal. He's played 25 points on last night on 9 for 18 shooting. The whole Florida State team, let's give them credit, right? Florida State hasn't been this exciting since Bobby Bowden was the coach in the football program. This is a huge win. Now, I don't want the media reading too much into it. That's why God invented eyeballs, so we can watch moments like this where upsets happen. It's an upset. Very big win for Florida State. If you're Duke, you got to get back on the horse. It's a tough loss at home. You're probably not number one in the next AP standings when they break them out. But you got to get back on horse and get back and ride it again. It doesn't take away from Duke. I think it says more about and gives more confidence to those kids from Florida State. Congratulations to them. Huge win that can't be understated.
Well, this is the Achilles heel of the Duke Blue Devils, and Florida State showcased it last night. There's a couple of them. The first is this team is hyper reliant on Cooper Flagg, and when he does not have eruptive nights, which he did not yesterday, and that's not to take away from the performances of Roderick Little, who played well, and Victoria Ilgauskas, who was second part of this comment. But Cooper Flagg, if you can find ways to contain him in a similar way that we talked about yesterday with Iowa, there's just not a dominant secondary option. It's the same thing when you look at Georgia Tech, who got upset yesterday or 2 days ago. Donta Walker, rough night. When your number one guy does not play like a number one guy, that's where Duke is susceptible. And they're even more susceptible when they're without Jeremiah Minor, right? Who continues to be their second best scorer. And without him, they have not found a guy that they can continually rely on. Pick that up and you can say, well, Roderick Little played well last night. He sure did. But you still are missing the offensive firepower of Jeremiah Minor to keep this thing rolling, particularly in the second half when your offense went quiet. And in that second half is when they didn't feature Victoria Ilgauskas, whether that was a scheme play or a defensive scheme by Florida State. The fact that Victoria Ilgauskas was not heavily featured in that second half, that's a big part of this team. You need to have somebody else that can carry the offensive workload, and you're going to sit here and say, well, they scored 80 points. They still had a chance to win this game in the second half. They shot 45%. You can point to the missed three-pointers, which, again, Jeremiah Minor is a better three-point shooter than they typically have out there right now. But you need somebody when the wheels are falling off to step up. They don't have Jeremiah Minor last night, and Victoria Ilgauskas went completely unisolate or unused in the second half. That can't continue for a Duke team that has championship aspirations.
And I said this a couple of weeks, like last week on Blazing Takes to Go when Jeremiah Minor got injured. I said Duke was going to lose. I said it was. I didn't know it was going to be Florida State. I had no idea that was happening. But I said this Duke team. This was the beginning of the end of Duke. I remember putting that as the ticker. However, when I say beginning of the end, I mean beginning of the end of their championship aspirations. Jeremiah Minor is a huge loss for this team. I know everyone was saying, "Oh, Duke is deep, and they're going to just next man up." Listen, you don't become 14-1, 15-1, 13-1, 13-game winning streaks by accident. It's because you have a formula that works and it's been working. You try baking a cake and decide to substitute flour with applesauce and see how your cake comes out. It just is what it is.
It's also going to be a big win for Florida State in that not only, again, is it's the fourth time they've beaten a number one team in franchise or in program history, but it's worth keeping an eye on come Hoopsteria because, as has been mentioned many times, we're going to have some sub 500 teams in Hoopsteria. Now, at 7-13, Florida State isn't trending in that direction, but there's certainly an open window for Florida State to get in. And now, when you start splitting hairs, Florida State with a win over the number one team on the road is going to carry weight with the committee in terms of potentially getting them in. Again, I'm not saying 6 games under gets in, but I'm also not ruling out a team 6 games under getting into Hoopsteria based off the current field that we have. All right, let's head to the game of the week, and that was a not so competitive one as Villanova goes on the road and dismantles a suddenly struggling Butler squad 94-60, and they do this one without needing Justin Bell to go nuclear. Bell finishes with 17, Noah Jackson with 26. I mean, you could say it was a tale of two halves, but it wasn't. 51 by Nova in the first half, 43 in the second, and Butler's vaunted defense nowhere to be found, Rick.
Hey, Butler had the opportunity last night to show the rest of the college basketball world something. That's that they're serious about their championship aspiration. Coming in ranked number 11, a really good test about Nova. Did we expect Butler to we expected it to be a close game. So we thought we saw 2 really, really high talented teams playing against each other. However, Butler has shown that they have gone from the pack the opposite direction, and Nova deserves to be where they are. We said it on the show yesterday. Well, I said it on the show yesterday. Your holes and the flaws in your game as a team cannot be huge if you have championship aspirations. The holes in your game has to be minute if you have championship aspirations. We talked about just about Duke with Minor being lost for as long as he is. That's a big hole in their championship aspirations. Last night we saw Butler's holes in their championship aspirations. And conversely, Villanova looks really, really good. The fact that you can get a win over a number 11 team without your main guy having to go bananas is the difference here. And shout out to Nova, Supernova, for getting it done.
So a couple things, right? Back on late December, I did a podcast that basically laid out the argument for and against for, I don't remember the stipulations at the time. I think it was the top 16 teams. Here was the for and against for Butler. For, defense and pace. They like to slow it down. They have a top-ranked defense at the time. Against, up-tempo games. They don't have the offensive firepower to win a shootout, and they won't be able to stay competitive, or rather run with high-octane teams. Who's a high-octane team? Villanova is a high-octane team. And last night, they had no answer for a team that ranks number 8 in offense in Villanova, who makes the top 50% from deep, a top 15% team from the floor. This was the kryptonite for Butler. And Butler is going to win and lose games based off how they are able to stop or slow down top-ranked offenses. And last night against Villanova, they could not do that. That is go back to the Achilles heels. That's the Achilles heel of this Butler squad. You go back to mid-December. They are 3-4 since mid-December, and some of these wins, a 3-point win against a really less than impressive Seton Hall squad, a win against Xavier, and a win against Syracuse, who has been the doormat and the punching bag for everybody in college basketball. That's the problem right now with Butler. They need to figure out what is our offensive identity, because, and it's my fear with Princeton. I'm not saying it's going to happen with Princeton, but it's the same type of vibe. I'm not discrediting them. I'm merely saying that's the challenge with a team that's heavily reliant on their defense, is what happens when you get punched in the mouth with a high octane offense. Butler got punched in the mouth in the first half, and when you have to start playing catch up when you're trailing by 16 points at the break, this offense is just not built to make those types of comebacks. And that's the fear with Butler, and that was exposed last night by Villanova.
Yeah, they don't have a closer. You don't have a guy when you need to get a bucket. When you absolutely have to get a bucket, you have to go to that guy. You know, those are part of the ingredients for national championships. All top 5 teams have those guys. I have at least a guy. When I have to get a bucket, he's the guy I'm going to get a bucket from, and Butler doesn't have that. Granted, their defense is good, but like you said, they get down 10, 12 points. They don't have the offensive firepower to to combat that, and they don't have a guy that they can go to that can reel off 8-10 points in a row for them. And you leave those nerds at Princeton alone, young man. You
Hey,
leave those nerds alone.
you there. If you're a big believer in Princeton, trust me, I am right there next to you. I have been speaking highly of them all season long, and I firmly believe in them. But as Butler
I'm
stands,
going to buy a
yeah,
pocket
no,
protector today. I'm gonna buy next time
we're
you see me next week. I'm
rocking
gonna
with
pocket
them.
protector.
I've got, don't worry, I got my Gel Point 2.0 pen ready to rock and roll. Okay, let's head to the pros, where a really controversial ending, if you're a Philadelphia fan, to last night's loss to the Toronto Raptors would be that decision by Joel Embiid to pass up a wide open 3-point shot with less than 10 seconds left, down by one, in favor of driving to the paint and fumbling it away. So the question, Rick, what do you do now with Joel Embiid and this 3-year contract that's going to pay him $192 million that isn't even going to start until next season? And the fact that on Super Bowl Sunday they said, hey, he might actually need some more surgery moving forward. What do you do with Joel Embiid?
There's nothing you can do. You made your bed with him, unfortunately. Again, since day one, I've never been a huge Joel Embiid guy. Everyone loves him, and that's cool. But I look, I'm gonna go back. I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. The best ability is availability, and I don't care how talented you are. If you're not available, you mean nothing to me. Your value is not the same. You're about to pay this guy $100+ million in 3 years, and he doesn't average 50. He's not playing 60, 70 games for you in the season. The team is not getting knocked off in the playoffs. He's not close to a championship, and you're stuck with this contract. I think it's a situation where he's. I hate to say it, but it's what it is. He's in AD territory.
He's
Crazy talent, but he's not going to play.
He's
really good when he plays. He's just not going to play every game.
Let's give AD some credit. He did play 74 games last season. And let's not turn this into an AD defense, but Joel Embiid is fast approaching in his SWBA career, missing as many games as he's played. I saw a figure yesterday. I think he's been paid $100+ million to sit on the bench with how many games he has missed
and
over the course of his career.
he's not a great teammate too. That doesn't help his case none either.
This is the bet that the Philadelphia 76ers have to lie in. And there's ways out of challenging situations. We saw the Lakers kind of navigate around what we thought was going to be a bleak future suddenly is quite a bit brighter with the trade to get Luka Doncic. Certainly some outside influence allowed that to happen. There's a pathway for the Phoenix Suns to find a way out of the bleak future ahead for them. With their complete lack of draft picks, they could find a way to trade somebody like Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and maybe they can recoup players and assets to kind of retool for their future. We saw the Brooklyn Nets and the Houston Rockets, both teams that were without draft capital because of some pretty foolish trades that they made, find their way out of that situation. With the Philadelphia Sixers, there's no real pathway out of this thing. Nobody wants to pay Joel Embiid $192 million starting next season. He's got a player option in 2028, 2029 that's going to pay him $69 million. He's picking that option up. You got Paul George, who just signed a 4-year deal. The only thing that's of any value that's worth holding down in Philadelphia is Tyrese Maxey. The problem is you have no financial pathway unless you trade one of those two guys, but there's no takers in the league. Maybe you could find somebody to offtake Paul George, maybe. But even then, you're probably giving up capital to make that happen. There is the runway for Philadelphia. It's tough to see the end point. It's tough to see the light through the dark forest. I don't know that light comes for another 2 years.
Yeah, and you know what Philly and Houston has in common? The predicament that they will put in financially and with player management and as far as cap management was done by Daryl Morey. It was Daryl Morey in Houston. They went ahead and burned the place down when it didn't work. Now it's Daryl Morey in Philly. He have to burn the place down when his behind leaves too. So the GM does this all-in type of thing, and it has not worked. And so I'm sure his time is up. And if you're the 76ers, I would think about just blowing this thing up and trading. Try again. You're gonna get
No one's picking him up, Rick. Like
you're gonna get
who's
nickels on
paying
the
for either of
dollar.
those guys?
You're gonna get nickels on the okay. We
And then you
can't
don't
see
have your own picks. You don't even have your
Yeah,
own picks to work with. I mean, that's the problem, right? I'll look up how the Philadelphia 76ers picks and where they're going.
the
But
Daryl Morey saga continues. I mean, I'm not surprised. This is
let's
how
see
he
here.
gets down.
So next season, the 2026 year, they have OKC's pick, which it's going to either be the actually will receive no, excuse me, that's OKC gets it. So Philadelphia will end up with one of Houston, Oklahoma City, or the Clippers, and they will receive the least favorable of those. It's probably going to be Oklahoma City. It's going to be in the 30s. They have their own 2026 first round pick. They don't have their own first round pick in 2027. They have their own first round pick in 2028, as well as a Clippers pick in 2028. And then they get swap rights with the Clippers in 2029. So the window for them to make a move, because this year's first round pick is going to Oklahoma
Right.
City, is 2027, right? Or really, it's next season. It's tank out next season. You got your own first round pick, but the problem is you probably have to attach your own first round pick, which would make you worse to get rid of Philadelphia or to get rid of Joel Embiid. Like that's the predicament you're in. We can't really tank right this season. That's why they're still trying to win games. The window to tank is next season when you have your own first round pick. But that means then you're trying to ramp up for a 2027 push when Joel Embiid is going to be 33 years old, when Paul George is going to be 2 years older. I don't know how old he is right now. That's not really a great proposition. So your avenue is, well, I guess we try to trade Embiid and attach our first round pick in the 1 year. Like this is the type of mechanics that you need to do. This hodgepodge of chaos just to get out of the disaster that was the Embiid extension, which there's no defense for, and the Paul George deal, which I actually don't think the Paul George at that time. The
It
Paul
wasn't a
George deal
bad
wasn't
deal.
bad. It
No.
it was an over. You thought it was going to be an over. Not you, Rick, but you person thought it was going to be an overpay on year 3, year 4, not year 1, and that's what it's turned out to be. I don't fault them for that one because Paul George still had value in the league. You fault them for the Embiid situation, for emboldening a guy that has not been healthy, and for giving him a 3-year extension when all signs said, "Why the heck do you need to do it?"
Yeah,
All
I
right,
mean at
that
this
is.
point, Paul George has done more podcasts than he's played games too. So it's just a
Okay,
lot
I should
going
notice
on
that.
in Philly. It's a whole lot of nothing going on in Philly. A lot of nothing. If I'm Tyrese Maxey, I'm like, yo, man, I might need to get out. Y'all can stay. I'll go.
It
Y'all can
doesn't
stay.
certainly seem like a great future option for
I'll go.
Tyrese Maxey with the 76ers. All right, that is our show. We are back tomorrow to recap all things SimWorld. Keep in mind, we've got more hoops coming your way. A trifecta of action on SimWorld TV today starts with Tennessee, South Carolina, the newly ranked South Carolina, followed up by the battle of rivals, Ohio State and Michigan, and then close it out with a red-hot Boise State team going up against UNLV with, believe it or not, folks, a chance for the top spot in the Mountain West between
UNLV take system.
UNLV and
UNLV
Boise
take system.
State. Rick is calling UNLV for them to pick up their 4th win and potentially getting 4th in a row and moving to 11-10 on the season. All right, that's our show. We're coming back tomorrow here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.